Houston, our instruments are showing that we have a incoming message from deep space. Repeat, Houston, we have an incoming message from deep space. Houston, we'll begin playing message now. Houston, we're going to try and translate that up here. Hold for translation. Translation complete. We'll begin playing message now.
Hey, it's me, Melissa.
What do you do when the aliens invade? Take a shot of MK Ultra and watch Melissa Jade. Put on your tinfoil hat and tune right in. We got their crime spree, flat earth theories, government conspiracies, a complex Mandela effects, unidentified objects, a mind expanding, fake moon landing, where it all bends understanding. It's me, Melissa. It's me, Melissa. Aliens is on the sun, or in Area 51. Time travels, unravels, haunted castles, cops are baffled, potential experimental thoughts that make you transcendental. It's me, Melissa. It's me, Melissa. Crime sprees, flat earth theories, government conspiracies, complex Mandela effects, unidentified objects, a mind expanding, fake moon landing, what it all bends understanding. It's me, Melissa. It's me, Melissa.
Hi, everybody. Hey, Queen Bella, Cammy, poor Linda, Lita B, Sherry, Mindy, Dog Mom, Mally, Mindy, Becky, Yes We Can, Dog Mom. Hi, Tamisha, Chezzy, Grandma Sherry, Seek Justice, Michelle, Pinche, I'm the Prize, CS, Debbie Roll, Bliss, We Gobshite, Julie, Marianne Morris, Cool Gamer, Tell the Truth, Kimberly, Homer, Artemis, Kate for Big Little Voices, Jessie Lynn Says, Petunia, Tony, Michelle, Kim, Anna, Anne, Harlot, People Me. Hi, guys. I got through everyone's names. There wasn't that much that time. Hi, Lisa, Iris, Emily, Christina, Tomato Bug, Debbie Doodles, Fragile Like a Bomb, Cutie Pie. I see you, Cutie Pie. Hi, Edith, Curious Christine, Victoria, Sherry. Hello. How was everybody's day? I did? Don't expect me to do it again. Hi, Grace on Wheels. We miss you. Hi, Fragrant Anxiety, Caleb, Diving Owl, Paula. Thank you, Sherry. Wait a tick. Grandma Sherry, you go live? Wait a second. Why don't I know this? Hi, anything is possible. Why don't I know this, Grandmama? My ear is finally the bee. It's the cut that, it's annoying. I think, Scott, she's talking about the witness that goes over the timeline of events. Where we last left off is we had just started on cross-examination of Al. So we have cross-examination, and then we have redirect coming up. And then we'll be done with Al, who is the first witness in the entire trial. Now, this was like a 6-week trial, if I remember correctly. We don't have to go over every witness, but, because there were some that they were there just really for context purposes and to be able to verify certain things. It's good to watch it all once, but we don't have to go over every single witness versus the ones that really bring something to the timeline and contribute to something that we want to take away from. Hi, con artist, eyes wide open. I gotta get it, Queen Bella. Hold on. One second. Hey, Jack. Shagdo is getting his cheeks clapped. Totally is. Thank you so much. You're so kind. At least it's him this time and not me, right? Okay, let me grab Grandma Shay. Do. I am so tired. Hi, Shafest Grandma. The wrong grandma, though, that I'm not looking for. Okay, I found Grandma Sherry. Oh, look at you! I will drop Grandma Sherry's link. Here we go. I didn't realize you streamed. Yeah, Kate, I'm really tired, but I'll pep it up. I always do, you know. Whenever I talk Tisha. Yay, Erica, we're happy that you found us. Hey, Keith. Yeah. Getting clapped is an equal opportunity situation. MJ, you're right. You're right. Touche. The world is scary. I love that. When the world is scary, come talk to Grandma Sherry. Oh, how comforting. I love it. So yeah, so we're gonna continue up. Now I have to pull out my Tisha notes from trial because I haven't found a place that has all of the witness lined up, which is crazy. Thank you so much, Danielle. We're doing another live this week. Did you guys see the what's it called? Nikolai was sentenced. Did you guys see that? The Apple River killer, Nikolai Mew, we covered it on my channel. He was sentenced to 20 years. I'd love to hear you guys' thoughts about that. I was on the fence with his trial. I was on the fence. Jack, thank you so much. It's so kind. Jack just gifted a membership. If you received it, please, please, please show Jack some love and thank him in the chat. That's awesome. Thank you so much.
Thank you very much.
Hi, Boho Hobo. Hi, Sabrina. Hi, Chloe Moon. It's just... Hi, Debbie Doodles. I agree, Carrie. Poor man. Listen, I feel bad for both. I saw young asshole kids. And a man who... It's really easy to sit here on the outside and say what you would have done in that situation, but you really don't know. Hi, Margie. Hi, 99 Problems. Jenny B. I agree, diving out. I don't think he should have gotten 20 years. That's just my opinion. But, okay. So, we're going to hop into cross-examination and then redirect of Al Stauch. But before we do, our missing child for tonight's live is Mark Doyle. Mark has been missing since October 28th, 2022 out of Fort Lauderdale. He is 4 years old. It says he was last seen on October 28th. He may be in the company of his mother. So if you or anyone who knows information on Mark's whereabouts, please contact the Palm Beach County Sheriff's Office at the number located in blue. Thank you, Dogmon. Dogmon gifted a membership. What a way to start the live. Thank you, guys. Please thank Dog Mom if you were lucky enough to get that membership. Awesome. Thank you guys so much. Yeah, typing out. Thank you very much. As a kid, and I never realized where he got it from. Yes, it's Ace Ventura. Yeah. It's sad, Becky. It's sad. You know, like, honestly, I think back to, like, my teen years, and I'm like, I should have I could have died many, many times. I feel like we all could agree on that, the stupid shit we did. But I don't know. I don't think 20 years is fair. I don't. Yay, freaking anxiety. Okay, so let me pull back up. We had gotten a few minutes into cross-exam of Al, and then we're just gonna pick right back up where we left off last night. Okay. So I'm just gonna jump back a few seconds just for context purposes. We got Tisha in the top left corner, Judge Werner in the middle, and then the bottom left is the host that I'm playing from, which is Recovery Addicts channel. Their link is in the description, and I'll drop it throughout. And then we have Talini up. Hi, Bogart. We have Talini up cross-examining Al. So let's do it.
I believe so, yeah.
Nothing seemed out of the ordinary.
Nothing out of the ordinary Sunday.
She let you know that she took Gan and Lena on a hike in Garden of the Gods.
I believe so. I believe we talked about that, yes, sir.
And she actually posted a photo of that on Instagram.
I don't know where she posted that photo, Mr. Talini.
I remember talking again with Detective Riley.
Hey, Whippets.
At this point?
Yeah, sorry. She posted after this. You talked to Detective Riley.
I didn't even know Detective Riley existed until I got back home and Gannon.
I remember talking again with Detective Riley.
At this point?
Yeah,
You did. I made some in perfect timing.
She posted after this. You talked to Detective Riley.
I didn't even know Detective Riley existed until I got back home and Gannon was already allegedly missing.
So sometimes, like, if you're saying you.
Hey, Amethyst Wolf. Hi, lovely LaQuinn, Megan. Oh, no, I love me some of them. Hi, Sherry. Welcome. I hope everyone is having an amazing day. It's a perfect time to come in. We literally just started. We are continuing with cross-examination of Al. Hi, Jennifer M. And so we just pressed play. Oh, you're so sweet, Erica. We're happy that you're part of the live crew now, too.
You don't remember stuff, then I'm going to re-reference your interview with Detective Riley and then showed you a transcript where you talked about whatever I'm talking about.
Hey, Natasha.
Okay,
so just
totally
for procedure, so you know
hey,
when I'm jumping back to that's why I'm doing that.
I understand. I just don't understand your question.
Okay.
We were on Sunday talking about Kobe Bryant, and then you jumped to. Do you remember talking to Detective Riley again? So could you clarify, please?
Absolutely.
Ooh, Al's got a pep in his step. Now, granted, me too, MMC. Al got a pep in his step, and I do feel bad for Talini here. And when I say that, I know that we want to jump at hi, Lace Lemons. Everyone seems to have had a long day today. I hope everyone's able to chill out now and just relax and, grab whatever. If you drink wine or whatever, Shirley Temple if you're feeling frisky, and just chill. Hi, Trio Girl Mom. So, thanks, Homer. I feel bad for Talini here, and I know we all want to jump on, right? Because we're just angry that he is defending Letecia, but that's his job. He took an oath. He did not choose to represent Letecia. He was appointed. You can't defend her. And I've tried to think about this, if it was my job to defend her, what angle, what entryway would I choose? And it's very hard. And he's aware that Letecia's guilty. So Al is probably his hardest witness. It's probably his hardest witness because it's much easier to question officers and, the tech guys. But he's dealing with Gannon's father. And he probably has a lot of sympathy in his heart. And so it must be hard. And he seems a bit off his game. Oh, Boho, you're so sweet.
And thank you, because when
Lawyers
I
have
asked you that
guns.
question, thank you for letting me clarify. You had told Detective Riley that she had posted that photo on her Instagram.
Okay.
Hi, Valerie. And real quickly, sorry. When she got the moving van, where did he think she was going to? He wasn't fully aware because originally they got the moving van and she was with her family and she was staying at the extended stay hotel. Then she got another one with Harley. That is where she packed Gannon's body along with the rest of her items and then went across the country. So Al wouldn't have been aware of that second moving van at the time.
If I said that and you have a transcript of it, then I'm not up here to deny it.
Would you-
No, sir.
Would you recognize that photo?
If you showed it to me, I'm more than likely.
Okay, they're talking about the Garden of the Gods hike on
Portion was
Sunday.
marked as Defense Exhibit A.
Go ahead. It's tactics. He's doing a great job. Al is doing a great job. He doesn't have a
Yes, sir, I
perfect
recognize
memory,
that photo.
Okay.
but he
And that
knows
was
how
the
the
photo
process
that,
works.
She posted that
Really?
Sunday on her Instagram of her hike.
If you're telling me that, then yes. I mean, I don't see anything on here indicating Instagram and the date timestamp, but I have no reason to deny that. So
I would say he has a great
Admission on
memory.
Defense Exhibit A.
Not perfect, but
Sure.
great.
I guess I have no objection if it's just to show.
Mrs. Ray actually brought me a sandwich because my pizza.
So
was
this
not very
is
filling.
Letecia posting the photo of her and Gannon
So I've
at the
got
Garden of the
great
Gods
sandwich and
hiking.
chips.
That is the admitted purpose.
Okay.
I'll allow it for that limited purpose.
Hey, Daniel.
She also indicated that he was,
would you like this back, Mr. Twain?
we can, here. thank you.
I don't want to sit right in front of me.
Absolutely.
Yeah, mother of cats. But they can't. Do you blame them? What can they do? Exactly, Emily. Let's see if she
She
maintains.
indicated to you that he was having some stomach problems,
Yes, sir.
and that wasn't unusual. Sometimes he would have
That
stomach.
was common.
Very. She indicated to you that she was going to keep him home from school on Monday.
Yes, sir.
And at the point in time when she said that, that seemed somewhat normal to you.
Keeping him home from school didn't seem normal, but the fact that he had a stomach issue and if it was to the point of, embarrassment or whatever, then that was absolutely acceptable.
Okay. And part of it, he would worry about incontinence at school. Like he was worried about having an accident at school. That was a worry that he had.
At that point, I don't believe that was a worry of his. He typically was able to manage it well and then deal.
Well, that's a thing I will say, Scott, because I hear what you're saying. I do. I don't think they expected her to be because it wasn't even just the fact that Letecia met 0 of the criteria of Dr. Dorothy Lewis's own criteria. She does have an extensive history. She is pretty good when it comes to dissociative identity disorder, but I don't know if she just was able to be bought or something happened in her latter years. I'm not sure, but I don't think they expected her to be as bad as she was because she also was very disrespectful to the court itself, her and her son. And we're going to get to that. We're going to see that. But who could they have brought in? Not everyone was willing to.
with it at home. I mean, he was 11 years old at that point, so.
And you commented to Detective Riley. Then Monday she kept him home because it didn't, we got to give him some medicine to help clean him out till he gets past that point.
And that was a common practice.
Okay.
Yes,
So he would get blocked up and you give him Miralax to get everything out and then he would be okay.
yes, sir.
Okay.
Yeah, Les Lemons.
She had also let you know
Hey, Sherman.
about the candle in the carpet that night on Sunday night.
Sunday, January 26th.
Yes.
I believe that's when that conversation happened. Yes, sir.
Okay. And Gannon was concerned. He was worried that he was going to get grounded for a year.
All of that came from the defendant. I never spoke to Gannon about his grounding. I received messages from his phone about it, but I never spoke to him directly about that at that point.
Okay.
Yes.
And that
Yes.
Monday comes and you don't have, there's some communication, but maybe not as much as normal. And then you get notified that Gannon hasn't come home.
Right.
And I imagine at some point, that sends you, into a panic.
Well, I mean, to be clear, I was in military
Thank you
school
for that
and training.
Sure.
So when you say not normal, it was actually normal for what I was doing at the time.
Okay, I mean, but I'm saying when Gannon doesn't come home, and it's getting to the point where it's at much later than it would be normally for him to come home, even being out late. And so, I mean, you start getting very nervous.
Absolutely, because my son's not home as he should be.
No, absolutely. And then the next morning you got on a flight and you got back as quick as you can.
Absolutely.
And when you get back, initially, there's some things that seem weird about some things that don't add up about what Miss Stauch is telling you. But initially you think that you guys are all on the same page trying to find Gannon.
What things are you referencing?
The rental car.
Oh, her getting a rental car?
Yeah.
Yeah, that seemed odd.
That seems odd, but nothing that you're not suspecting her of anything at that point in time. It just seems weird that she's picking you up in a rental car.
Yeah, her picking me up in a rental car was absolutely weird. Yes, sir.
And you have some interviews, again, with some different law enforcement and so forth.
Meg.
What specific interviews are you referencing?
You had a couple different ones. I think the first one, I believe it was at Starbucks, but it was with Detective Bethel.
There was a few, Detective Riley, Detective Bethel, and I think one other representative was there at Starbucks with myself and the defendant. Yes, sir.
And you're trying to figure out anything, where Gannon can be, if somebody would have taken him, anything like that, and you're talking to them.
I'm doing whatever I can for my son at that point, all during that time frame. Yes, sir.
Absolutely. And at some point in time, you even had thought maybe like it could be Layden or it could be Mike involved.
I don't remember ever having the thought that Landon was involved in any way. She, regardless of opinions about her, she loved her children. Mike Hyatt, I have no comment on that. I don't think I ever suspected that either.
Do you remember telling Detective Bethel, the mom's married to a guy that's got a lot of trouble with the law? And that was one of my first instincts, was like when the come and go came up and they said that he would walk all nonchalant and everything was normal, like the dude was here or something, because he's got a lot of trouble in his background. So like it came to my mind. It was worth putting down. I don't know if anything is legit.
And that's exactly what I said. It came to my mind and I didn't know if anything was legit. So that's exactly what I just said.
Yeah.
Hey, right.
And then as that kind of goes on and everything like that, the stuff just starts based upon what Miss Stauch is telling you. It's not adding up.
Repeat that, please, sir.
As this kind of day goes on and the days are progressing, the things that Miss Stauch is telling you about your son and where he might be, it's starting to not add up with you.
Yeah, it's starting with the rental car, as we've already addressed, it starts to not add up. Yes,
and then when you see that her car is not at French Elementary, like I said, was kind of, I think what you testified yesterday, that was kind of the pivotal moment for you.
Yes, sir.
And then you go down to the police station, you want her to come down as well, and she won't come down to meet you at the sheriff's station.
Just to clarify, she was supposed to be the one to go to the police station.
Honestly, and I totally understand what you're saying. Tell the truth. Tell the truth says I don't trust people that say before asking a question, like Tortellini does, defense attorney. I just said but I think he was saying that because he was struggling here. He knew, and we heard him say this after the trial, he knew she was guilty. I think Al, along with being the first witness up, and it's going to be, all right, the start of the trial, the nerves, that is the father of Gannon, he knows all the details, brutally murdered. And he knows it was at the hands of his client. And so I think Tortellini, I call him, was trying to do his absolute best to remain respectful. You could tell he wasn't trying to push hard. Anytime Al doesn't really understand the question he's asking, and granted, it's a little bit of word salad, he's like, you're right. No, you're right. Hold on. Let me reword that. I think he was struggling here. Because he wanted to be as respectful as he could while still defending his client.
the defendant was.
Yeah.
The first time I went down there, I went in her stead because they asked to bring something to get Gannon's DNA or whatever. And I said, he's my son. I'm going to take it down there and I'm going to,
Okay.
lead the charge, if you will, whatever. And then, so I went down there and that's when the first interview took place, just to clarify.
And then after that, though, you come back again. And it's my understanding you were trying to get her to come down, even on that second interview, come down to the police station to be re-interviewed, or the sheriff's station.
When you say re-interviewed, you mean me or the
Her.
defendant? I don't know when she was interviewed the first time or at all. I just know I went twice. The first time, as I indicated, when she was supposed to go, the defendant was supposed to go. The second time, that evening was after I had discovered the defendant's car was not where she claimed it to have been.
Hey, Tess. Hi, Katie. Hi, Chris.
And then her family, she leaves the house. Initially, she doesn't take all her stuff, but she just goes to a hotel, correct?
Mr. Chalina, I have no clue where she went.
She doesn't, she's no longer coming to your house.
After that would have been, let me see if I can get these dates right. The 27th was Monday. I think this would have been Wednesday, the 29th. After she left, I don't remember her coming back until she came to get her stuff.
Okay. And how many days after that did she come to get her stuff?
I don't remember a specific date.
Okay. But I mean, it's in that first week though.
I don't remember a specific date, Mr. Chalina. If you have it, then I don't know.
No, that's fine. And she had family members that are helping her move out.
He did have a few, yes.
Okay. And then you don't ever, until I think what you said, after that point, you don't see her from then until court.
I don't believe I saw her again after she left, after she got her stuff, that within that first week, whatever the date was, until she showed up for the first court hearing after she was arrested, the defendant, that is.
Now, between then and then, I think the first pre-recorded phone call we heard was on February 13th. Had you been in communication with her?
To some degree, yes.
Was it primary text messages, phone calls?
I think it was just a mix of emails, text, phone calls. I don't remember specifically. I know there was a wide range of methods.
And at least, I mean, would it be fair to say by the time that you're doing these phone calls with her, I mean, you're convinced at that point in time she's the person responsible for your son being missing?
At minimum, a person of interest, if you will, but yeah, I had a high suspicion she was responsible.
I mean, and part of that is because, I mean, one, what she was telling you things that weren't true about leaving the car there. So that was the first thing that really shifted, correct?
When you say because, I'd rather tell you the because, but yes, that was one of the first things was that really put her as a person of interest in my mind. And I've said that repeatedly.
Absolutely. And then she goes from saying that Gannon never came home to like a couple days later saying Eduardo was down there and raped me and took Gannon at gunpoint.
No, before she left the house, the defendant told me the first rape story. We covered that yesterday.
Okay. And sorry, thank you for clarifying that. So she's still in the house with you when she comes up, changes from he just doesn't come home to this Eduardo rape story.
Yeah, I don't remember when the specific name Eduardo was given by the defendant, but the first rape story would have been Wednesday morning in a master bedroom, as I testified to yesterday.
And then you're aware that she goes down to the sheriff's statement and does an interview about the rape story.
I believe that was later that morning or early afternoon. I don't know specifically when she got there.
Okay. I mean, and at that point, I mean, it's fair to say now, I mean, whatever suspicions, I mean, your suspicions have become more heightened at that point about her involvement. When it goes from he doesn't come home to this seemingly ridiculous story.
Yeah, and I've been pretty clear from the point of not finding her car where the defendant said it was. From that point forward, everything just compounded, and my suspicions just got worse and worse against the defendant.
Absolutely. And what you know of her, I think you've said this to a couple people. I mean, she's an intelligent person.
Do you have record of me saying that to someone?
I do.
Oh my goodness. Jury is just off to the left of, well, let's see.
Al
Right.
is very respectful. I think it's also his
Sorry, we
training.
got a lot of
Like I'm
transcripts
where the jury is. If the main picture were expanded, they're just off to the left of the state prosecution table, or the right of the state prosecution table. It's on the left side of the screen.
I don't think Al's sexy, but that's
Just
just
watch carefully. The judge will show them periodically, like yesterday.
I love it, Natasha. Come on, Tisha. Hiding behind that hair, doesn't want the jury to see her all the way
His
to the
face does
right.
look red. I'm not sure if he's just like sunburned. I mean,
No,
Colorado has
Tellini
great skiing. He might
always
be
is
just
red.
a ski bum.
Tellini's blood pressure runs high. I'm
A lot of skiing.
convinced.
Speed today isn't as
Damn, he wasn't
the
prepared. Look at this.
education.
Damn. Okay.
We're indicating that she had a stacked education.
A stacked
Once
education.
again, do you have that
Okay.
somewhere?
You can't find it.
Oh man. Look at
Okay,
Tisha.
one thing we learned earlier is that defense is working out of binders for the majority of what they're doing.
Yeah, this
And
was
the state has computers.
an interview with Detective Bethel.
Oh, this is hard to watch.
I do forget, especially when I'm snacking.
I mean, you may
I try not to eat on camera mostly.
green highlighted with a little star.
So that was the second one. Do you have?
That I'll just go with that one. But you
Okay.
indicated that she had a stacked education.
Yeah.
Okay. Mayor Pro,
Obviously, I did.
you may go ahead.
Hey, Jules. Hey, Ropes Gal. Thanks, Grandma Cece.
So it was it that Wednesday then after she goes down to the sheriff's station that then she doesn't come home at that point?
Mhm.
So I don't know where she. So
Okay.
She had a sleepover with Harley's best friend, and don't worry, we'll get to that point because she's a fucking witness, and it is the cringiest shit ever. After she does the great escape from the hospital, she has Harley and her friend pick her up from the Taco Bell across the street. That's when she texts from Harley's phone to her best friend when Harley is driving, saying, "Hey, can my mom sleep over with us?" So cringy.
She
that
left
day,
that morning.
she left sometime Wednesday, middle of the day. I don't know specifically when.
Okay.
Detective Riley was at the house. I heard the conversation between them two. She left with the intent to follow him downtown to the sheriff's station. I don't know where she went from there.
Did she ever come back home
I
after
don't
that
know.
other than to get her stuff?
Not while I was there. I never witnessed her coming back home after that.
And then in February, that's when February 13th, was that the first pretext phone?
Goodness. Cat Mom in Florida says, even though Al irks me, I love your channel. That is beyond generous and kind. Thank you so much. Wow, I really don't even know what to say. That is so generous. Thank you so much. And I totally understand Al irking. You know, I've said it many times. I've had my feelings about Al. Just because I don't vocalize it all the time, don't think that I don't have them. And maybe if you guys weren't here from the beginning, you wouldn't know. I was very vocal about my feelings about Al. But, with that being said, I choose to go over Letecia every day. I feel like it would be wrong for me to every day that I do go over Letecia to let me remind how disappointed I am with Al. Like, I feel like that would be wrong. He is a victim. I know that he did not. I believe that he did not believe his child, this would happen to his child. Now I can sit here all day and say about the red flags. There were a lot. But I totally understand. And thank you so much. I really do appreciate that. That is so kind, so generous, so supportive. Thank you. She's probably like, I just want to send the super chat. You didn't have to give me a lecture. I'm sorry. But I just want people to know I understand. Just because I'm not vocalizing it, please don't think you guys can't vocalize your opinions. Absolutely, you can, and I get it.
Phone call?
I believe so.
And where were these phone calls occurring at?
At the FBI office downtown.
Okay. And was this something, had you communicated with her that you wanted to talk to her on that date, or how did they know like she was going to be calling at this point in time?
Who was they?
The FBI.
FBI.
Who? Owl. Hey, Mrs. Bendover.
Leading up to that point, there was some attempts at communicating more thoroughly with the defendant.
Yeah.
The defendant reached out to me and said, hey, we would need to talk, as you heard in some of the phone calls.
Yeah.
So I believe as of that, like I said this morning, I tried to keep her on the hook, if you will.
No, absolutely.
Through messages. And then,
She
the
is a
first,
follow-up.
all of those would have been planned to some degree. So I could be there with the FBI agents and the sheriff's office agents.
And they had kind of, or there was a plan. I mean, you were trying to get as much information out of her as you could.
Okay, Tellini, I see where you're going, but of course there was a plan, and of course they were trying to acquire and obtain as much information from Letecia as they could. But I see that you're trying to like make a hole there and wiggle in as if you had to pull this from Letecia. There was no pulling from Letecia. Letecia willingly gave all of these false narratives when it came to the death of his son. I have. You're talking about Al Cosmo? A deep dive. I have. That's what I'm trying to say. I have done that. I've gone over even church. If you're here, you could let them know in the chat. You know, do you guys? I don't know if anybody was here when I went over Al's sermons at the church after him saying if he could go back in time and change two things, the first thing he would do is save his other son, which is his new wife Melissa's child, who died after Gannon from self-harm, and then save Gannon. And I took big issues with that. You remember that, Kathy? Thank you, honey, for 9 months of support. I love this chat. MG's hard work. Thank you. # Gannon. Thank you so much, honey. Yeah, I went over it. I went over it. Well, you know, I'll just say that.
Me or the
Both
authority?
you and the FBI.
I can't speak to what their plan or their intent was.
Yeah,
My
I didn't
intent
like
was to
that
find my
answer.
son, period.
Absolutely.
Hi, Sprinkle Dogma.
And I think you said before when you're Mr. Allen was questioning, a lot of the things you were
Thank you,
saying to
RL.
her was to try to keep her talking, try to get any type of information, that you can about where your son is.
Yes.
Absolutely.
And
It really
trying,
does.
hope against hope to bring him home safely at this point.
Yes, sir.
And if not,
You
then find
did.
out what had happened and hold somebody accountable.
My intent was
Mama
never
Florida,
in that
touche.
setting to hold somebody accountable. I wanted my son and I wanted to wrap my arms around him. That's it.
Absolutely.
Amen, Al. Amen. See,
And it,
with Tellini, though, I'll give it to him, and I'll give it to him. You see, I'll jump back for a second. You see his response. When I say he doesn't have to be that respectful, of course he should, but you can tell this was hard for him. And I understand that's fine. Tell the truth. We all don't have to agree. And I love when we all don't agree, right? Or else it would be just an echo chamber. I love having all of our different opinions. And it's such a respectful community with you guys. We're all willing to hear one another out. And I love that. I really do appreciate that. But I feel like Tellini was being as respectful as he could. I really do.
That's it.
absolutely. And it appeared, and maybe I'm wrong,
He's codependent, dog mom. Al is extremely
so we have the
codependent.
one phone call that occurred on the 13th, and then all the other phone calls, if I'm not mistaken, occurred on February 14th.
Thank you, Debbie Doodles.
The ones that I testified about this morning, I think those were all February 13th and 14th.
And how, just for my clarification, how long of a gap was there between each of the phone calls? Do you remember?
I don't, but I think Mr. Allen detailed that when he said phone call on this date at this time.
Oh,
Was
shit.
there, just as far as your recollection, was there a long gap? Were you guys sitting around for like hours waiting in between calls, or were they fairly quick succession between each other.
Mr. Lee, I don't remember. That was a grueling time period in my life to sit there and have to keep my cool. Talking to her when I had a strong suspicion she had all the information. So I can't attest to that, Mr.
Okay.
Lee.
I mean, and it's clear at least that you appear on February 13th to keep your cool very well. It appears, and if I'm wrong on this, your patience on February 14th starts to grow thin. Would that be fair to say? Let me rephrase.
Yes, thank you.
Please do.
You become more and more frustrated with the cockamamie story she's telling you on February 14th.
I don't know if I think I'm frustrated, period.
Absolutely.
I think I'm at the end of my rope, period. But I did a good job keeping my cool. And if you listen to one of the phone calls, I was a little bit more aggressive verbally. And in a later phone call, I was more patient and letting her give me information.
I understand that.
More calculated than frustrated, Mr.
Okay,
Lee.
so that was part.
Honestly, hi, Nancy Grape. I understand that, Curious Christine, and I know it falls under beliefs. And I know with his religion, wife comes before child. I strongly disagree with that. And it makes me concerned because putting wife before child has resulted in this type of situation. So I would feel like lesson learned, child before spouse. And when I say that, I am a big believer on showing your spouse the utmost respect. And I understand the chain of command of God, spouse, children. But he had jumped into the relationship so quickly. I don't think Melissa really even should have been here making a victim's impact. This is where I will go off. So I'll just, I zip my mouth.
Part of this. You're trying different tactics to try to get information. Would that be fair?
I know, Chesney.
I'm doing the best I can to find information about my son.
Yeah.
And was there frustration by the fact that she keeps changing these stories with no consistency between them? And I think you referred to them. These are garbage stories.
Yeah, it was very frustrating.
And that they don't make any sense. At one point in time, she says, it's Eduardo. And then another point in time, she says, Quincy Brown's.
And you know what? I'm sorry. And I won't keep pausing it. I don't have a husband, but let's just say I did, and we had a child together. I would respect my husband more if he says, I'm going to save our kids before you. Thank you. That is what I want. That is what I would want from the father of my children, from my husband. I'm just saying. I wouldn't want to come before our children.
Some type of paperwork fell out of his pants on that date, and that's how she knows he's Quincy Brown. I mean, none of this stuff, they were ridiculous.
Is that
I'm asking you, would you agree with that?
Yeah, and you heard me say it. They're garbage stories is what you
Thank
quoted me
goodness,
as saying.
lots of love.
And even on that, the first one, the one that we heard yesterday, on that phone call that she had yesterday, she's trying very hard to convince you that she didn't have anything to do when somebody had kidnapped Gannon and had taken him somewhere, and she's trying to help. It appears that is her goal, is what she's telling you.
Mr. Lee, I'm not going to speak to her goals or her intent, what was going through her mind at that point.
Oh, shit. Alice.
She wasn't at that point in time trying to indicate anything, mental health or anything like that. That was phone call. She's not telling you, hey, I'm crazy on the 13th, correct?
I don't believe she said that in any of those phone calls.
But in some of those phone calls,
I understand, Julie.
she does make some statements. And I'm going on to the February 13th phone call. He indicates at one point in time when she's talking to you, I have completely parts of the information and not part of the information.
Is that, are you quoting that? Could you say that again?
She told you that she has part of the information, but she doesn't have part of the information.
Okay.
Okay. Yeah, right?
She
Okay.
talks to you about that night after night, I dreamed of different things that have added detail to this.
Okay.
She tells you that at some point she blacked out.
Are you quoting
Yes.
from? Okay, then I have no reason to deny her saying that. Yes.
At one point, she says, I sit back and remember it, like play it in my mind, play it in my head again, play it in my head again, play it in my head again.
Okay.
Yeah, dog.
She says, when I woke up and like out of the state of confusion, I was going crazy.
Okay.
Tolini, don't you stop trying to build foundation for Letecia going in a dissociative state. I see where you're trying to go. You're failing, but I see what you're trying to do.
He's like, she said a lot of things.
I think we all
Land
agree
the
on that.
plane.
She tells you all of it was a blur in and out. Try to figure it out. I got up at one point and hoped it was a dream.
Okay.
Okay.
And then
That's a good way to look at it, Kimberly Hayes. I don't have to agree, but I
on
see.
that next phone call that occurred on the 14th, she's talking to you and she indicates you're going back and forth. I think it was the second to last phone call that you had with her. You guys are going kind of back
Never
and forth.
see us.
And at one point, you're trying to figure out where Gannon is. She says, Tesha doesn't know where Gannon is.
Yeah,
I
she's
don't
just
remember her
staring
saying
at
that,
him.
but
Rona,
Okay.
yeah.
if you want to show me that, I mean, you don't have to, but I don't remember her saying that.
Okay.
Right,
It's on the
Tesha?
recording. They have it.
Okay.
They are, Sherry. They
Is that the
are.
best he's got?
A lot of
She
us
spoke
come from
about
the Chris
herself in
Watts
third person.
community. Tolini's like, I
Once.
got nothing,
In the
man.
middle of a ramble of lies.
This is a hard case to defend, you know?
The camera just
As
said,
far as, and now I'm going to kind of shift to more like just general things of your relationship with Miss Stauch.
My prediction, I'll tell you guys where I would have went in on the angle if I was going for the dissociative identity disorder. And if you go back to day one of this trial when they did opening arguments and my live from that day, I predicted that they were going to claim Letecia's alter was the man. Because if you make her alter who she was referring to, all of her statements were true, right? Her alter was the killer. Yet the alter was herself. So all the times where she said he was in the house, he was, because he was her. All of the times that you know, like if you literally take all of her scenarios and flip it to being one of her alters, a lot of her statements would be true because it would be her. It's replacing her, right? But they didn't go for that angle. They really didn't go for much. No, lies. I did not predict that they would take away her swivel chair. But I think back to he was in the house when the cops were there. That is true, right? That's true because he is an alter. Yes, the split defense. Yes, Nancy Grape, exactly. And so they could eliminate perceiving a chunk of that lying as, oh, it's no longer a lie, right? Because that's, I think, what the jury's going to walk away with. The big thing is all of the lies. Yet if they could account 60-70% of those lies for truth, just not the truth that you would expect, right? it may have helped her. It may have helped her.
You've indicated that at some point, and sometimes with her, it's like you're living on a roller coaster. She can be up and down.
Did I say that to someone?
Yeah. Again, this is a Detective Bethel. Sometimes you just got to kind of stay with her and don't ride the roller coaster. Or if you disagree with her, it becomes like a roller coaster.
Sure.
Okay. You talked about her with the kids, and you've indicated that, and this would be
Yes, on the prize.
later in March, you did another interview, and you did this with the FBI, March 6th, 2020. You remember doing an interview with the FBI then?
I did multiple interviews, so I might need to see that one, Mr. Tellini.
Okay. You indicated to them that sometimes it was a little strange. Sometimes she could be really great with the kids, doing everything with them. And then you'd have weeks where she would act like she didn't want anything to do with them.
You mind if I take a look at that?
Yeah,
I don't remember that doing an interview that time frame.
I may approach. You may.
Witness comes across as extremely truthful. I don't think there's anything. I mean, he had a slight discrepancy in a time period about when Gannon started counseling, but other than that, it's just been truth after truth. And he
Hold on, this
hasn't been
says
caught in any
February
lies.
9th. It says interview of Albert Stauch, February 9th. You indicated March 9th.
Look how attentive she is
That's because the first page has a 3.
Okay.
So you're so February 9th. So that's my fault.
compared
Thank
to
Boom.
direct.
Nothing gets by this guy. It's like, I don't remember having an interview that time.
I think that was, I'm going to blame that on the FBI because on the first page of that interview, they have 3-9. But you're correct. So on
Can we
February,
clarify what the date
9th?
actually is of the
it
interview?
is, you were correct. It is February 9th. You did that interview with the FBI. Yes,
Thank
sir.
you.
But that point in time, you
Yeah.
told them that some point she would be.
I noticed Al is very good with dates. I am horrible with dates. Like any time frame, I could not tell you at all. But Al is very, very good with dates.
really great with the kids, and then other times
Hey,
she wouldn't
Roro.
want it. She wouldn't.
Hey, Tucker
Yes, sir,
News.
absolutely.
The next words out of the defense attorney's mouth should be no further questions, Your Honor. This is not going well for them.
You also, in that interview, I think it was that Monday with Detective Riley, same type of thing. Like 1 minute, considering these moments of trust moments, like right now, I say, you should be all in, helping the kids, teach, doing homework, cooking, feeding and stuff. And then there'd be days and week, like it's like the kids were left to fend for themselves.
What Monday are you referencing?
The Monday where you had, not the Monday, this would have been Tuesday, when you had the interview with Detective Riley back, so January 28th.
Me
Okay.
too, Nancy.
So this was the interview at
With
the
the
sheriff's office?
Yes, with Detective Riley.
Okay.
And you were telling him, describing how Ms. Stauch was with the kids, and you indicate that there are moments and times when she's really good, she's helping the kids, doing everything like that, and then other times where it appears like she's just checked out.
Yes, sir.
You indicated that sometimes her and Layden seemed to work together to try to get you.
Yeah, probably in jest, but
Okay.
yeah.
And then other times they appear to be at each other's throats.
Who's they?
Ms. Stauch and Layden.
Lena? If I said that.
Not Layden, Layden.
Landon?
Landon, I'm sorry.
Okay, yeah,
Oh.
okay, then
My goodness. It is bad when the attorney doesn't even know their names. Layden, he originally thought he was trying to say Lena, but it's Landon. Come on. Gannon's mom. Come on, Tellini.
I take back what I just said. Yeah, can you start over with
Okay.
Landon? Because I thought you said Lena.
And yeah, Landon.
It's
With your
toast.
first ex-wife, you indicated that sometimes her and Ms. Stauch would work together, like they were out to try to get you, and other times they were at their throats constantly?
Yes, sir.
You indicated, and again, if I'm jumping back and forth, that Ms. Stauch would take lots of trips out of the blue and you didn't know where she got the money to do it.
Yes,
Yeah,
sir.
tell the truth.
You indicated when you talked to the district attorney's investigator that sometimes Ms. Stauch likes to refer to herself as Taylor.
Yes, sir.
She had, let me jump back a little bit and we're almost done, sir.
Take your time, Mr. Trelini.
Okay, thank you.
Take all day if you want.
When you guys
Time, Mr.
first
Cellini.
started, when you and Ms. Stauch first started dating and the relationship was going well, she had talked to you about the abuse she suffered growing up.
She mentioned that there was something with one of her stepfathers. I think his name would have been Mr. Lowry. And that I don't remember it being a pattern of abuse, but some isolated events is the way she described it to me. And she
Look at her
recently moved
shaking her
out
head.
of that house and back with her grandparents in North Carolina.
Okay, and that was James Lowry. Do you remember?
I don't know his first name. I just remember the last name Lowry.
And I don't want to get into this, but that was kind of a bond that you got, not a bond, but that was, you had in your family growing up, and I want to go into it, but some, not with you, but trauma growing up. And so that was something that, a basis that you guys could talk about initially in the relationship.
We discussed it. I don't know if it's a foundational basis like you're describing it, but
He does, Dion.
She had issues maintaining steady employment.
I think that's a misrepresentation of what happened, but she,
Okay. Well, I mean, I think you indicated that she had like 8 jobs in 3 years.
right, and she intentionally left those jobs. It wasn't, she had trouble keeping employment. She intentionally left those jobs.
Okay, but she had a lot of different jobs in a short period of time.
Yes, sir.
You're
See,
aware of,
let me be clear. If Tellini wanted to be a dick, he could be objecting. Right there. Tellini didn't misrepresent anything, but when you're on the stand, and we talked about this earlier, you have this urge to, when you're asked a question, to give context with it, right? Because you're worried that if you don't give the context, people could misinterpret the answer. The same way Tellini just asked a very yes or no question. She had a hard time maintaining jobs. The yes answer, yes, that by your own admission, yes. Now the context, he didn't give any, he wasn't misrepresenting anything because he did not even give context yet. But Al wanted to make sure it wasn't because she was struggling mentally and she was let go. This was her own fault. So Tellini could have objected. He could, but he's not. He's allowing Al. And I know this is cringe for us, but he is walking on eggshells and he's trying to be respectful.
in the late fall of 2019, she was having mental health issues.
I'm not aware of that.
Are you aware that she was, well, you guys have the same insurance, correct?
Yes, sir.
Are you aware that she was seeing a Dr. Rhonda Niederhauser at Fort Carson?
We did. So let me clarify. We did have the same insurance while myself and the defendant were married. Obviously no longer do. But yes, I went with her on one occasion to see Dr. Niederhauser. Well, to Fort Carson. I did not go back into the room with her. With the defendant, I stayed in the lobby, but I was with her on that visit.
And that and actually for most of your guys' relationship, she'd been prescribed lorazepam.
I don't know for sure if most of our relationship,
that mean?
I know she at some point saw somebody for anxiety and got a prescription for something. That's all I remember, Mr. Tellini.
Are you aware that Dr. Niederhauser advised her to quit her job because her mental health issues were becoming so severe?
I am not aware of that.
Okay.
What? That was never proven.
But you are, to your knowledge, if you know, how often was she seeing Dr. Niederhauser?
Same answer I already gave. I know that she went once, and that was the one time that I went with her. That's all I can attest to, Mr. Clean.
She went once.
So I went to all the trouble to type out the answer. Now I get a
Letecia
long pause
lied
where
to
I could
her
have just said it.
lawyers.
But she has court-appointed attorneys. These are public defenders.
When you had, again, I'm jumping back to when you had that interview with Detective Riley. At that point in time, were you having concerns about Ms. Stauch and her involvement? When you had the interview with Detective Riley?
And her involvement in what, Mr. Tellini?
In the disappearance of your son?
Yeah, we've already, let's ask your question again, please, so I can.
When you interviewed with Detective Riley that first time, were you having concerns about her involvement?
So just to be clear, the first time by myself or?
First time by yourself?
Yeah, I did have some concerns.
In what way, though?
And you've indicated that you don't think that she had any mental health issues?
No, I did indicate that I don't think she had any mental health issues.
Do you remember at that point in time telling Detective Riley, I hope that it doesn't come to that, but if you put her daughter on the hot seat, she'll say, I love my mom. You know, I wouldn't do anything without my mom, but she's freaking nuts, crazy.
So that was drawn, I remember saying that or something to that point.
Okay.
Yeah.
So you told the detective that she's crazy.
Mr. Tellini, would you quote what you just quoted to me?
Or you told the detective that Harley would say that her mom is freaking nuts, crazy.
That's what I said.
Okay. No further questions.
Damn. All right, we're doing
Redirect, Mr. Allen.
redirect. First of all, and I would get upset too. And I understand that this is the lawyer's job. But saying she's fucking nuts. Crazy, not insane, right? Good old crazy, but not insane. And it's scary and intimidating when you're up there and your words can be used in a way where that's not how I meant it, Yeah, she's fucking crazy. Can we all not agree that? But she's not insane. She knows damn well what she's doing. So now we got redirect.
He is one of the most precise witnesses I've ever heard. Completely at ease up there taking questions. And same demeanor for both defense and.
There were some questions, Mr. Stauch, about the defendant being a good softball player. Do you remember those?
Yes, sir.
Does softball have rules?
Absolutely.
Did the defendant know how to follow those rules?
Absolutely.
Did she know how to play the game?
Very well.
Did she know how to use specific techniques and strategies in playing softball?
I would say her being a coach at the high school softball level would indicate all those things are yes.
You jumped to my next question.
Yeah.
Did she also go through efforts to teach other people how to play the rule, all the rules of softball?
Yes, sir.
Is that an indication that she knew the difference between right and wrong?
Yes, sir.
You were asked at the very beginning too about when you got custody of your kiddos, Gannon and Lena, that it was a safer environment with the defendant than with Landon. Do you remember those questions?
Yes, sir.
Would you have thought that if the defendant had severe mental health disease or defect?
Absolutely not.
Did she have a severe mental health disease or defect back then?
No, sir.
You were asked in different points of the cross-examination about your interviews with Detective Riley. And I want to be a little bit more of a timeline here. Do you remember having an interview with Detective Riley and other people at Starbucks, and that being your first contact with law enforcement in this case in person?
Yes, sir.
And then you went to the El Paso County Sheriff's Office to deliver, I think you said some stuff for DNA. What did you deliver?
I remember there being a toothbrush and maybe, I don't remember specifically, but some sort of article of clothing, a shoe or something that would have his, it wasn't spoken to me that way, but I assumed it was for DNA purposes.
And then I think you said that you had an interview at the end of that. When you dropped the stuff off, then you did an interview.
Yeah, absolutely.
Do you remember what day that was?
That would have been Tuesday, January 28th, 2020.
Okay. The Starbucks thing, when did that occur? Was that also Tuesday, January?
Tuesday, earlier in the day.
Okay. And then you had a third interview in person at the sheriff's office when you came back. What day was that?
Later in the evening, Tuesday, January 28th, 2020.
You were asked about specifically shown a specific page of the interview, the first one at Starbucks, where Mr. Tellini was asking you about when you got Gannon into counseling.
Yes.
And there was some disagreement between you and Mr. Tellini about when that counseling may have started or when you said that the counseling had started. Who is Dr. Burtek?
She was I don't know specifically, but she was some sort of family health counselor that Gannon got assigned to at Fort Carson.
So could you have signed Gannon up for counseling at Fort Carson before you got to Colorado?
No, sir.
So did that occur after you got to Colorado?
Yes, sir.
Which was in when?
I got here February 15th or thereabouts, 2019.
When you were having that first contact with Detective Riley at Starbucks, did you have a lot on your mind?
Absolutely.
The information that you had on your mind as it relates to Gannon being missing, where were you getting that information from that initial period of time?
Everything was coming from the defendant.
At that time, did you have any reason to necessarily disbelieve her that Gannon had left and not come home?
No, sir, not at that time.
And did that change over time?
Yes, sir.
Did that change over time because of the defendant's specific actions?
Yes, sir.
You were asked about you having conversations with your mother about, and Mr. Tellini said that your mother told you that she had concerns about the defendant's mental health.
That's what Mr. Tellini said, yes.
You remember that?
I don't remember her diagnosing the defendant based on hearsay. I remember having conversations about, the defendant's anxiety and how that affects our relationship, yes.
Al is good. Al is good, okay? For him to use the legal terms and the terminology, I do not remember my mom diagnosing Letecia based on hearsay, based on what I was communicating to her. How could my mom diagnose her? Bam.
In your mind, did the defendant have anxiety?
I'm not a medical professional, but I would say she had some form of it. She had, some anxiety here and there about different things.
Even if she had that anxiety in your lay opinion, was she able to function?
Absolutely.
Could she make a meal?
Absolutely.
Could she make a Denver omelet if she wanted to?
Maybe get some Chick-fil-A sandwiches, but yeah.
Okay.
Yes. Absolutely.
Could she scramble eggs?
She could, yes.
Put some cheese on the eggs?
Yes, sir.
Without burning herself?
Yes, sir.
What about cut up vegetables?
Yes, sir.
Could she do that without cutting herself?
Yes, sir.
Did she ever run out in the street yelling, screaming naked?
Not that I remember, no, sir.
I think you pretty much covered it. Everything from omelets to running out in the street. I think those are the only options. So
you were asked about the rental car and about that being odd. Do you remember that in the cross-examination?
Yes, sir.
Did that appear to you in your mind to be a way of manipulating what was happening with the investigation?
That's hard for me to say. Once again, as you said already, that was a time period when I was just way down with worry. The reason she gave, I think we've talked about already, I'm not sure, but was about the mileage on her lease. And so she had to get a rental car, which was something the defendant had said repeatedly over time. So looking back, I can make an assessment, but in the moment, it was just a ridiculous thing that I just blew past. I was more worried about getting out there and doing what we could to find Gannon.
Yeah, he did well.
Well, if in your mind, if your kid is missing, are you worried about the miles you're putting on your car?
And I believe I've said that already. No, there's nothing more important than finding that little boy.
And so the fact that her car was hidden somewhere, was that when you put two and two together, was that a form in your mind of her manipulating the investigation?
Absolutely. That's why I freaked out and went back down to do another interview with the sheriff's office.
This is
You
redirect.
were asked about the, again, going back to the Starbucks interview with Mark Riley, the first one on January 28th, about you expressing some
This is redirect, Jem.
concerns about Landon's ex-husband, Mike Hyde.
So let me be clear. When they do redirect, because Jem asked what kind of questions are these, you have to keep it within the scope of cross. So Michael Allen cannot wander outside of the scope of the questions Tellini asked Al. And he's focusing on, was she capable? Was she competent? Was she functioning every day? Or was she running outside naked? Did she not know how to scramble eggs and put cheese on it? Or was she able to do multi-process functioning just fine? So that's kind of like, but he's keeping it within the scope of what Tellini asked.
Remember that?
Yes, sir.
And talking about the trouble that he had in his background.
Yes, sir.
Again, at that time, were you operating on limited information?
Yes, sir.
Were you racking your brain trying to figure out what might have happened?
Right,
with
Lisa Mons?
Yes, sir. I was just going through every possible, any variable, anything possible that would have led us closer to him.
Would you characterize that as you were going through every known variable in your mind and then trying to cross them off to see whether there was any connection to Gannon being missing?
Yeah, in conjunction with variables and information that was being fed from the defendant as well.
Okay. You did 3 interviews on January 28th.
Yes, sir.
1 at Starbucks and then 2 at the sheriff's office later that day.
Yes, sir.
Did it seem odd to you that the defendant was resisting going to the sheriff's office and giving an interview?
Definitely. Homer.
Yes, sir.
Why?
Once again, if the feelings are true and honest about we need to work together to find Gannon, as the defendant said repeatedly, what is there to hide from? Why would you not go down there? What is keeping you, the defendant, from coming down there?
Okay. And did that appear in your mind to be a conscious decision the defendant was making to resist going to the sheriff's office and give an interview?
Absolutely.
You talked about getting text messages and phone calls during this time that these recorded phone calls were happening.
Yes, sir.
Did the defendant change the source of those phone calls over time? And let me be more clear. You obviously gave us earlier her specific phone number that you knew you had with her at AT&T.
Please
Yes,
do, Rolo.
Did you start getting phone calls and texts from her that weren't from necessarily AT&T, the account that you knew about?
Yes, sir. I got phone calls and text messages from multiple different phone numbers, and
That's right,
emails
Heather.
started coming from her email, which to me indicated it was no longer. I also got messages from her iCloud, is what I'm trying to say. So, which indicated me she no longer had her normal phone and she was using some alternate method of communication, if that makes sense.
It does. And so again, did that indicate to you more conscious decision-making that she was still able to communicate with you, even though her phone might have been seized by law enforcement?
Yes, sir.
Able to navigate that sort of framework of figuring out other ways to text you or call you?
Yes, sir.
No, I've never done it to you guys. I promise. Just like the guys in Men in Black say, I've never used on.
You were asked about
Flash numbers.
these phone calls that we've heard in the stories that the defendant was giving you, and the way Mr. Tellini characterized them was that there was no consistency in the stories. Do you remember that?
Yes, sir.
Were there in fact actually consistencies with her stories and what was happening with the investigation?
Yes, sir. For instance, once the search shifted to, say, northern El Paso, Douglas County area, on that County Line Road area that the defendant indicated in the phone calls, I felt like she had to place herself there somehow, and that's what she did in that phone call.
Are you suggesting in your mind that that was a way for her to explain away why her GPS would show her there?
Yes, sir.
Sustained. Jury will disregard the answer.
She also gave you a description of blood being in the garage and in Gannon's room.
Sure
Yes,
did.
sir.
Are you aware that there was blood found in the garage and in his bedroom?
Yes, sir.
She did, Chedsy.
And then as it relates to that El Paso County, Douglas County line, so up north, were you aware that there was a board with Gannon's blood and DNA found on it up in that area?
I was made aware of that. Yes, sir.
You got into some questions about your relationship with the defendant, and you were specifically asked
That
about
is too close to comfort.
a statement you made about the relationship between the two of you was like riding a roller coaster. Do you remember that?
Yes, sir.
Why was it like riding a roller coaster?
I think that's the normal ebb and flow of many relationships. I don't think that's uncommon. We had our ups and downs in our relationship.
Look
That's
at her
what that
laughing.
indicated.
Well, let me ask you more specifically, based on your belief that she would manipulate you sometimes, did that
Gross.
add to the effect of riding a
Yes,
roller coaster
Harlan.
Yeah, that would have been the
Thank-
extreme lows in our relationship. Yes, sir.
when she would manipulate
Fucking
you?
Yes, sir.
Lego.
Was it common for her to manipulate you?
Yes, sir.
You were asked about sometimes she would be great and sometimes not. Do you remember that?
Yes, sir.
When the sometimes not period of time, what was that a result of?
Oftentimes a result of that manipulation that we just discussed,
Caroline.
or lies or mistruths the defendant would tell that I would have to sort through, as you heard me do in these phone calls.
She is
I have
Harlan.
to sort through these lies and get to the truth.
Was it ever those lows, the sometimes not part, were those ever a result of her suffering from a severe mental illness or disease?
No, sir.
Ever?
No, sir.
Because she gets
You were asked about
Joy from
the
pain.
defendant referring to herself as Taylor. Do you remember that?
Yes, sir.
Kelly.
Tell the jury about that. What does that mean?
So I believe when I met the defendant, her Facebook profile said Tisha Taylor Arden. And of course, I had questions about that because her middle name is Lynn, I believe. The
Tisha
defendant's middle
Lynn.
name. The defendant would always say, always wanted my middle name to be Taylor. I don't like the name Lynn. And that's where I left it at that.
Don't shake your head no. You are hiding behind your fucking gross ass. Let me pull myself back. You are hiding from that jury. Yeah, you want to shake your head no when you even had Gannon try to call you Taylor? Fuck out of here. You even said in the Bethel interview, you always hated the name Letecia. That's why you refer to yourself as Tisha.
So anytime Taylor ever came up, I just, in my mind, referred back to that's what she preferred her name to be.
Well, did she ever use the name Taylor and start acting crazy?
No, sir.
Did she ever use the name Taylor and start talking in
Yeah.
other languages?
No, sir.
Did she ever use the name Taylor and start having other personalities?
No, sir.
Was Taylor ever associated with her having a severe mental illness or disease or defect?
No, sir.
You were asked about the defendant having difficulty maintaining steady employment. Do you remember that?
Yes, sir.
You answered that the defendant intentionally left those jobs.
Yes, sir.
So expand on that for the jury. What do you mean by that?
So, for instance, when we, I think in the tail end of our dating relationship, in the first part of our married relationship, she was working at Myrtle Beach Middle or Elementary School and quit, resigned from that position, causing her to have to seek new employment.
Okay.
And why that's significant, because I disagreed with the decision. It was what I, outside looking in, a great place of employment for her, and she seemed fine there.
Okay. And then you were asked about Dr. Niederhauser, right? Do you remember that?
Yes, sir.
And Mr. Tellini told you that the defendant was being seen for anxiety. You remember that?
Yes, sir.
Did you know whether she was being seen for anxiety or not?
I did not. Once again, I only accompanied her as far as the waiting room that one visit, and then she went to the back, was seen, and then the defendant that is came out, and we went home.
To your knowledge, was the defendant ever seen for a severe mental disease or defect?
No, sir.
And then finally, Do you remember the defendant in this
Oh, thanks,
investigation,
Carissa.
whether she ever told you to not talk to the
Trish.
police?
She did.
How many times?
I don't remember how many times one stands out specifically.
Okay. And then did you try to call her during your second interview?
I believe I did. I'd have to hear or listen to it to confirm, but I think so.
And I'm talking about your interview that you did with Detective Riley at the sheriff's office.
So the first one at the sheriff's office?
Second interview at the sheriff's evening.
So the third one total?
Yes,
Okay,
let me finish. The second interview at the sheriff's office. So you're right, it would be the third, but only the second one at the sheriff's office, evening of January 28th.
Yes, I believe I did try to call her. Yes, sir.
Were you able to get a hold of her?
No, sir.
You know why you were not able to get a hold of her?
No, sir.
Okay, thank you. That's all I got.
Do any of the jurors have any questions for Mr. Stauch?
Let's hear if the
I
jury has-
love that the jury gets to ask
Yep, all right.
questions.
Thank you, sir. You may step down.
They just want to shake his hand. That's it.
Prosecution, call your next witness, please.
We call Macon Ponder to the stand, Your Honor.
Who dat?
Macon Ponder. Is that what I heard?
Megan Ponder. I
Is
don't
this
remember.
A police witness. Let's see.
Mr. Ponder, if you would step forward and raise your right hand, please, sir.
Sorry.
Actually, yep, up here. Everybody does that. That's okay.
Officer.
Do you swear affirm the testimony about to give this man will be the truth, the whole truth, and nothing
Oh,
but
the
the truth?
Brit.
Go ahead and
Oh,
have a seat in the witness stand. Please watch your step as you step into the stand.
trigger warning. Obviously, we know what we're getting into with this trial recap, but this is the bridge inspector. This is the man who found Gannon's body.
I should grab a screenshot of him standing there in front of the judge so we can. Oh, look at that.
We
chair
got him
does
at
not
the
move.
top.
Everybody does that.
We got
The
him.
microphone moves, but the chair does not.
Yes,
All right.
Harlan, I agree.
Mr.
They
Young?
should always be
Thank
able
you,
to
Your
ask.
Honor. Good afternoon, Mr. Ponder. How are you doing?
Good, sir. How are you?
Good. You and I never formally met. I'm Dave Young. I talked to you on the phone, I believe. Do you recall that?
Yes, sir.
And where do you currently reside?
Video's awful, but we're going to use it.
Panama City, Florida, sir.
And did you just fly in from Florida?
Yes, sir. I flew in yesterday.
Did you pack a coat?
I did. I left. It was 80 degrees and got here and it was about 20. So
I was worried about that, so I'm glad you did that. Mr. Ponder, what's your occupation?
Sir, I'm a bridge inspector for the Florida Department of Transportation. I'm the senior underwater dive team leader.
And how long have you been a bridge inspector?
Roughly 12 years now.
And what do you do as a bridge inspector? I know the title's kind of self-explanatory, but let the jury know what you do.
The short and skinny
minutes to
is
build
basically
this.
we every 2 years our bridges are required to be inspected. We get a list of bridges each month and we break up into teams and go and inspect those bridges accordingly each month.
Okay. And how often would you inspect certain bridges?
Every 2 years.
Okay. And I'm going to take you back to March 17th of 2020. Were you in that role as a
Brandon
bridge
did not attend
inspector back
Homer.
then in Florida?
Yes, sir.
Dakota.
And did you have an
Arvado just called us
opportunity
witness.
to be inspecting a bridge by the name of Escambia Bridge?
Yes, sir.
And what's the name of that bridge? Did I get that right?
Yes, sir. Just Escambia River Bridge.
And can you describe this bridge for the jury?
Thank you, TT. Hey, Jinx.
Yes, it's just a concrete bridge, rather long. Basically the environment out there is the river is closer to what we would call the near end of it. And after you get over the river, the bridge actually continues on for a lot further, just due to the marshy area. There's marsh on both sides. It's really inaccessible to any vehicles.
And what city is this bridge close to?
Pensacola, Florida.
And how close is this bridge to the actual ocean, the Gulf of Mexico?
Several miles. As the crow flies, maybe 7 or 8 miles.
And I'm assuming, does the bridge go over the Escambia River?
Yes, sir.
And does the river go into the Gulf of Mexico?
Thank you,
Eventually,
TT.
the river actually dumps out into Escambia Bay, and then Escambia Bay goes out to the pass and then into the Gulf of Mexico.
And how often, was this another 2 years you would inspect this particular bridge every 2 years?
Yes, sir.
I hate this layout. Sorry, guys. I'm trying to figure out a good way to show this.
our department for the state of Florida, we inspect bridges every 2 years on interstate systems and any state roads. They have some different stipulations on our county bridges, but our office only handles state highways and the interstate.
So it would have been March of 2018 or approximately then when this bridge was inspected last. Is that fair?
It would have been inspected 2 years prior in the month of March.
Okay.
It doesn't have to be on the exact day.
And approximately how long is this entire bridge that you're
James,
inspecting?
thanks for becoming a member.
I would say roughly 12 to 1,300 feet.
Okay. Is that the only part that covers the river? Or does it, when you talk about this marsh area, does a bridge extend over a marsh area as well?
Yes, sir.
And so would that be miles or?
No, that whole area is fairly marshy. There's a set of bridges all the way down through that on that span of US 90. That just happens to be the first bridge on that, starting in that span on that stretch of highway.
So what are you doing when you go out to this particular bridge to inspect it? What are you looking for?
Our job as bridge inspectors to find any kind of defects, any kind of issues that would harm the traveling public. We look for cracks in the deck, cracks in the underside of the deck. As a diver, we look at the piles underwater, look at any kind of cracks and spalls being any kind of missing concrete on those piles or columns. And if it was a steel structure, it'd be the same thing. You'd look for cracks and welds and stuff.
And so do you have someone, particularly on March 17th, 2020, with you as you're doing this inspection?
Yes, sir. We always go out as a team, primarily for safety, but also, we're always on the interstate or on busy roads. So we're always having somebody watch our back when we're taking the notes and watching out for traffic or operating a piece of equipment if need be while somebody else is taking notes.
Oh, thanks,
And
James.
so do you inspect the surface area of the bridge as well as the side of the bridge and below the bridge? And you indicated you even get in the water and look at the pillars.
Absolutely. Yes, sir. We try to do the best we can to look at 100% of the bridge every inspection.
So could you please tell the jury about March 17, 2020? Did you locate something?
Look at him looking at
a
the
suitcase
camera.
underneath the bridge?
Yes, sir. During that inspection, the particular bridge that we were inspecting requires an underbridge inspection machine. The particular machine allows us to gain access to the underside of the bridge due to the height and over water. As we were inspecting the underside of the bridge and we're coming to the end of it, my partner and I that were in the basket noticed a suitcase towards the end of the bridge, close to, it's kind of laying in a marshy area and a little bit of woods right next to the edge of the bridge. And we just noticed it down there. It was point of interest when we got down there. We didn't look at it then. We just made a note to come back to it later on.
Wow.
And who was your partner? What was his name?
Matthew Goins.
And so when you first notice this suitcase, where are you and Mr. Goins at?
When we first noticed it, to back up before getting into the piece of equipment, we also walk across the deck and take soundings at each pier on both sides of the bridge. And that gives us any indication of any settlement or anything that might be failing on the bridge. And that requires dropping down a measuring tape essentially with a weight on it and measuring the height up to the edge of the bridge to the top of the barrier wall. And when we looked over, the suitcase was right next to the edge of a bent where we were taking the measurement. Had it been in the middle of a bent or in the middle of a span, we may have not even noticed it.
Wow.
But because of its location, it was right next to where we dropped our profile tape, is what we call it, to take the measurement. We immediately saw it as soon as we dropped it down.
And so
How'd you see it all, Jigs? We're happy to
I'm
have
not a
you.
Navy guy. When you say deck, are you talking about the road area of the bridge where the vehicles go?
Yes, sir. That's what we call the deck. We take our measurements at the top of the barrier wall. Anybody that's driven over a bridge, the concrete walls on the outside is where we take our measurements from.
And so are you and Mr. Goins looking over the edge of the bridge?
Ooh-lee.
And you see a suitcase directly down below?
Yes, sir.
What side of the bridge are you on, the eastbound lanes or the westbound lanes?
We're on the eastbound lane and we were on the east or the right side of the structure.
And so you note that there's a suitcase there, but then you go on with the inspection.
Yes, sir.
And tell us about that. Do you go
How
all the way
daunting.
across the bridge and then work your way back, or how does that work?
Well, generally when we're taking a profile, it's we'll start at what we call the near end, which for our reference is we work from west to east or south to north. In this case, we were working west to east. We started on the right side of the bridge heading east. When we finish that profile, then yes, we do turn back around and we work from east to west back to where we started. And that's when we get into the truck and start our under bridge inspection.
And when you start your under bridge inspection, is that when you get back to the area where the suitcase is?
It wasn't for, no, sir. It wasn't for probably roughly an hour, hour and a half later. Maybe even a little bit longer, because when we started the under inspection, we start back at the beginning of the bridge.
Okay.
And where we found the suitcase was almost at the very end of the bridge.
And this bridge goes east and west, is that right?
Yes, sir.
So you're starting the undercarriage portion on the east side, working your way west, is that right?
No, sir. We're starting on the the west end, working towards the east.
Okay. And so what happens when you get back to that area where the suitcase is?
Because of the profile and the as the bridge, there's the hump in the bridge. When we got towards the end of the structure, the bridge starts to become lower, closer to the ground. And at that point, we didn't need the truck anymore. So we were able to lower the basket down to the ground line and get out, and was going to finish our inspection from there. And that's when we lowered down to the ground, we've remembered that we had seen the suitcase. We finished up our inspection and then went back to the suitcase.
Thank God
And
they
why
did.
did you go back to the suitcase?
Pure curiosity.
Okay. And again, is Mr. Goins with you at this point in time as well?
Yes, sir.
So what happens when you get back to the suitcase?
Oh, man.
We got back to the suitcase, and where it was lying at kind of an odd angle, but the handle was towards the underside of the bridge. So I reached out for the handle and immediately noticed it was very, very heavy. And I looked back and remember telling Matt, I said, I don't know what's in this. I said, but it's heavy. I said, and where it was at, it had a possibility of being waterlogged. We didn't know if there was clothing or something in it. We just noticed that whatever it was probably waterlogged and saturated, just due to how heavy it was.
And I imagine you get a lot of rain in Florida.
Yes, sir.
Do you get a lot of?
Now, please keep in mind, this was an extra large suitcase. It was larger than a typical suitcase. But not only did it have Gannon's body, it had a pillow, a comforter, and sheets.
Rain in the months of February and March?
We can. March normally is fairly rainy season, but again, where the suitcase was really right at the edge of the marsh, and depending on tide, you don't necessarily have to have a lot of rain for that area to be influenced by tide.
Okay.
Yes, Michelle, it was.
So you, Mr. Goins, get up to the suitcase. You said it appeared to be heavy. What happened after that?
Because of where it was at, it was very, very marshy and muddy. We, of course, didn't know what was in it, but underneath the bridge where it was at was very flat and sandy. And we kind of made a decision, let's pull it out of the mud and pull it underneath the bridge where it was flat and sandy, and whatever it was in it, we'll just open it there rather than in the muddy marsh, just sticks and a lot of sticks and stuff there. So we pulled it underneath the bridge.
And what, did you open it?
Yes, sir.
Tell us about that.
I was the first one to unzip it. And before we opened it, as soon as we unzipped it, we immediately noticed the smell. That's what hit us first.
What I want you to take from that, though, is they did not notice the smell until they unzipped it, which is I'm surprised by. I'm shocked by that. But it took unzipping the suitcase for the smell to hit.
I remember looking up at Matt, who's quite a bit taller than me. And I said, Matt, I think there's something dead in here. And unfortunately, we do come across sometimes somebody will throw out a litter of puppies or something in a bag. And, that's not uncommon. And it smelled, but it was so strong. It was different that day. So I didn't initially open it, and we kind of thought about what we were going to do first. When we finally went ahead and unzipped the rest of it, the smell was so overpowering. We kind of took a step back, and the first thing I remember seeing was just 2 little feet, and that had little football socks on them. The best I remember, I remember there being little socks on them. And before anything else happened, we couldn't really make out what it was. Matt dumped the suitcase over, and of course we initially immediately knew it was a body. But after looking at it, it was we couldn't tell male or female, boy or girl. We didn't know. A lot of black hair. And then I turned away.
What was the size of this suitcase? Do you remember?
Roughly the size of a checked bag. It wouldn't have been it was too big to be a carry-on, but roughly the size of an older checked bag suitcase.
And was there anything else in the suitcase besides the body?
Lots of blankets. There may have been a pillow or something. I just remember a lot of bedding in there and blankets. It was kind of the body was in a fetal position and partially wrapped up, so we couldn't tell a whole lot until we dumped it out. And again, I turned my head.
What did you do after that?
Walked away. I immediately said we went ahead and called the inspection right there. I didn't have my cell phone with me. Matt did at the time. He's a volunteer firefighter, and he's dealt with some of this stuff, and I was very thankful to have him there. We immediately dialed 911 and got them on their way. And then I walked up back to the top of the bridge and talked to our truck operator and told him kind of what was going on, that they were shutting it down, and then just waited for authorities to get there.
Okay. And did members of the Santa Rosa Sheriff's Office eventually show up?
Yes, sir.
Ouch. And did they interview you and Mr. Goins and process that scene as it was theirs?
Yes, sir.
After we talked on the phone a few weeks ago, did you get an email from me of a Google Earth image of this bridge we've been talking about?
Yes, sir.
And did you yourself mark a red arrow on that Google image as to where the body was found back on March 17th, 2020?
Yes, sir.
If I may approach the witness, Your Honor.
Me?
Mr. Ponder, I'm going to show you People's Exhibit 60 and 69. 61 and 62 are going to be larger. So I'm going to turn these around so you can see them.
Mr. Ponder,
Yes,
if
sir.
you were
Your
looking for a drink of water, there's a water pitcher right there and some cups if you would like some. Be careful when you take the lid off, it comes out fast.
Yeah, it's heavy.
You can just take a moment to look at those photographs, and then I'll ask you some questions about them.
I know what I would do to Letecia. Oh my God. Nope. Bro, now she doesn't. Wait till you see what she does when the medical examiner's on the stand.
Okay, this is about the best I can do right now. Sorry, guys.
Okay, have you a chance to do that?
Yes, sir.
Do you recognize those photographs?
Absolutely.
I want to start with People's Exhibit 60. Is People's Exhibit 60 one of the Google Earth images I sent to you?
She did Google.
And does that accurately
bridge
depict
inspections.
the Scambia Bridge, River Bridge, as you knew it back on March 17th, 2020?
Yes, sir.
Do all the photographs that I've given you, including the two ones that are on boards here to your left, accurately depict that bridge as it looked like on March 17th, 2020?
Yes, sir.
You know, at this time, I'd move to admit People's Exhibit 60 through.
The exhibit screen's behind him.
69.
Defense.
And they'll eventually
Exhibit
get
60
in
through
frame.
69 will be
Yeah.
admitted. Go ahead.
I know, Natalia.
I'm going to publish People's Exhibit 60, which is going to be on that TV behind you and on this TV to my left.
We're going to see a little bit behind him. So warning, there might be some images on here that are extremely graphic. If you don't want to see exactly what he's going to testify to, which is what he found in the suitcase, this would be a good time just to step away for a minute.
While we're doing that, I'm going to do a little. All right, let's look at People's Exhibit 60 here on the TV screen. Is that the Google Earth image we talked about earlier?
Yes, sir.
Could you just describe the bridge as we're looking at it on this television?
In what way, sir?
Well, let's see. There's if I can approach on her yet.
You may.
That is true, Jenks.
Pointer up here. We're old to go so we use these things.
Okay.
Can you just kind of point out the direction of the bridge? If we see the river in this image?
So this is the Scambia River here. Our inspection would start on the west end here and work towards the east. Each of these concrete piers you can see here is what we call vents. And that's where earlier, as I explained, taking the measurements from. So that's each of those that we stop at is where we take our measurements from, working from
Right,
the
Creative
near
Mind?
end or the west, working towards the east end.
Oh, really, Kelly?
Also, as I was saying that from the river forward, this area out here is marsh. It is over here really is also. And actually it's just very inaccessible to, except for there's a little service road here. Doesn't really go anywhere, but there's even some boats and stuff still left out here from previous hurricanes that nobody can get to.
And so I'm assuming that's not a populated area.
No, sir.
Maybe some wildlife.
Probably lots.
Okay. Are there any lights
Really
on this
big
bridge?
wells.
I don't believe so. I don't remember.
Me too, Little
a lot
Red.
of times the channel is lit. There is a fender system there that would have been lit in the evenings, but I can't remember if there's lights. I want to say there is. It's pretty dark out there, and I'm pretty sure there are light poles on there. Actually, now that I come to think of it, because as we use our machine, we have to come up and over each of those, which is kind of a pain. But yeah, actually, I do believe it is lit, sir.
Okay. And as you're driving across this whole area, the marshy area here, if it's at night, would you know whether or not water would be underneath the bridge or not?
If you were unfamiliar with the area, no. I would say somebody who's driving across it that had never driven across it before and didn't know the area, you wouldn't think you were out of the water or over the water until you got back onto the pavement, where this is a concrete bridge. And you can see where the concrete ends and the pavement begins. you're still actually elevated all the way up to the end of the bridge, elevated off the ground.
Hey, Jenny Squad.
And now below that TV there, I put up People's Exhibit 61. Do you recognize that one?
Yes, sir.
And is that the exhibit that you emailed back to me with the red arrow on there?
Yes, sir.
And please tell the jury what we see in that exhibit using that pointer.
The arrow marks approximately where Matt and I found the suitcase that day. It's a little hard to see in that in the picture. But you can kind of see again where the vents are, the lines in the road. And this was one of the measurements right here. The suitcase was roughly just right over the bridge rail, right at the very edge.
Oh, Teresa, it
of
takes them a while
the
to
marsh
get
there.
the camera
And
situated
we can go to People's
on the
Exhibit
TV.
62.
This is
at
the
this
first
time. Or
witness
63, I'm
that
sorry.
they actually have on film, so it takes them a little bit to
And
get
now we have People's
situated.
Exhibit 63 up. I'm going to place People's Exhibit 62 on the easel. What do we see here in People's Exhibit 63?
Just a magnified image of the structure.
Is this, again, an indication that you emailed to me with the red arrow saying where you and Mr. Goins found the suitcase?
Yes, sir.
And I want to talk to you about this concrete area, the particular bridge.
Okay.
Is there an area, what I would refer to as a shoulder area to park your vehicle if you expand on that bridge?
Yes, sir. The shoulder area would be indicated by the white hash marks on the right side of the bridge.
Sticking on that, Paul?
Go ahead,
What
Tisha.
we're,
Look what
what
you
we're
did.
seeing behind the witness is the corner of the
It's not
television.
here. This is there we go.
Any
This is
picture we
gonna be
see
your
is just going to be
shoulder.
just the bottom
The hash
corner of
marks
the
here with
picture.
the depict
But there
where
still might be something
you would be able to
depicted in it.
pull off the side of the road. Just barely visible. You can see the center line here. This is a 2-lane bridge. And so there's almost room there for another lane, but that's just what we call a safety lane to be able to pull over and if you were having car troubles.
So plenty of room to park a vehicle there if you need to.
Yes, sir.
And
Yeah.
where
So
this arrow is, and I know you may not be precise, but is that the general area where
oh,
you
it
and
is.
Mr. Goins were taking your measurements when you first saw the suitcase looking over the side of the bridge?
Yes, sir.
It was directly below what you called, was it the barrier?
What we would call a bent, and that's basically just it's the space in between each span where the columns would hold up. Each
Oh,
each
you're
column
fine,
is what we
Tisha.
call a bent, and it just in between those two is what we call the span.
We can go to People's Exhibit 64 now.
We've had to enlarge the video.
What do
on
we
the
see in
screen to
People's
get
Exhibit
her,
64?
so it is a little blurry for everybody.
A picture appears to be looking on that is taken on the westbound bridge, and that is in the safety lane of the westbound, which would also be though on the far end of that structure. And that picture is looking west. Looking west, sir.
And so can you refer back to People's Exhibit 62 on the board here to your left, the on the easel?
Yes, sir.
And just kind of point out which lane to travel we're looking at.
That picture's approximately probably a little higher. Right. This direction. Each of these are what we call the bents. That's
So could you have access to get underneath the eastbound lanes by pulling over in this area and walking under the bridge?
You would have access, but it'd be very difficult to access that area. There's also what we call slope protection or rock rubble. And a lot of times those rocks move easily, they slip, they shift. You could walk down there, but you'd have to be very careful.
So looking at this People's Exhibit 64, can you see the general area where the suitcase may have been? From
We
this
all
photo?
are, Homer. 'Homer. 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 'Homer.
To the best of my knowledge, that's a little further past where we found it. The suitcase would have been further east.
No problem. Let's go to People's Exhibit 65, please. Now, what do we see in People's Exhibit 65?
Where the suitcase was found.
Now, is this where you, Mr. Goins, pulled it out to?
No, we've all
empty
seen
the
it, Jenks.
contents?
Yes, sir.
Could you use your pointer and just point out where
Well,
the
most of
suitcase
us
is
have
in this
seen it.
image? So would this photograph be taken from eastbound lanes, excuse me, the westbound lanes, looking back towards,
Yes, sir.
we can go to People's Exhibit 66 now. What do we see in People's Exhibit 66?
Again, where the suitcase was opened.
And can you point out the general area of where you and Mr. Goins pulled the suitcase out of?
Go ahead, Tisha, look up.
And this is where the measurement would have been taken. Able to, why we noticed
wow,
where it was
Rona.
at, because it was right over next to the
It
edge
was,
of the.
Megan.
And just so the record's clear, you said the measurements were taken where we see the pillars for the bridge.
Yes, sir.
So you would have been looking down directly off the edge of the bridge where those pillars are.
Yes, sir.
And the suitcase would have been located to the right of the pillars as you're looking down.
Yes, sir.
And about how many feet, again, estimate, did you guys pull that out of that marshy area to its right?
I would say roughly 10 feet, maybe not even that far. It was almost directly below the barrier rail.
And when you moved the suitcase, did it leave an indentation in the ground?
I honestly can't remember. I didn't notice. The part I did notice was the suitcase was at an odd angle. It looks like it had fallen on a corner of the suitcase. It wasn't flat, but it was sitting at an odd angle.
Did you point out
pinned message for the witness
to members of the sheriff's department exactly where the suitcase was at when you first saw it?
Yes, sir.
And were they able to take photographs of that area as far as you know?
Yes, sir.
We can go to People's Exhibit 67. What do we see in People's Exhibit 67?
See the bedding and the open suitcase.
Could you point out the bedding? And was the body wrapped around this bedding?
Yes, sir.
And that's where you left it when you went to go call 911?
Yes, sir.
We go to People's Exhibit 68, please. What do we see in People's Exhibit 68?
Just on the edge of the marsh line.
Is this area consistent where the suitcase may have been when you and Mr. Goins pulled it out?
Yes, sir.
And go to 69. You recognize this?
Yes, sir.
And what is this?
Just again, right there where the suitcase was found. And you can see, and I don't know how long it had been there, but the bushes and stuff are pushed to the side.
She chucked it. Come on, Tisha.
Is there a second
back
here?
that up.
You may.
Those are my questions. Thank you, Mr. Ponder.
Cross-examination, Mr. Cook.
there shouldn't be much from the defense here.
Good afternoon, sir. How are you?
Good, sir.
My name is Will Cook, and I represent the defendant in this case. I'm going to ask you some follow-up questions.
I'll probably ask about the weight of the suitcase specifically.
When you were doing the bridge inspection, did you have any kind of machine like a cherry picker? I don't know what you would call it, a cherry picker that would kind of reach under the bridge so you could do a visual examination of the underside of the bridge?
Yes, sir.
Were y'all using that device yet when you discovered the body, or were you doing the soundings and then going to come back and do work with equipment and the?
We were performing the soundings first, the profile,
Okay.
and then come back with the what we call a snooper or an underbridge inspection machine.
Okay. And the soundings, you're just going along, walking along the edge of the bridge and dropping a line and seeing what the length of it is?
Yes, sir.
Okay. And you would take that sounding measurement at each pier?
Yes, sir.
Of the bridge? Does some of the areas where it looks like the bridge is elevated, I guess by definition a bridge is elevated, but is that because the river will sometimes flood up and that will be actually, instead of land or ground, it'll be flood water underneath the bridge?
Yes, sir.
Okay. Does that happen every year, or is that like 100-year flood, 50-year flood, something that happens every spring or summer, or just
It
depends on the weather?
Depends on the weather, how much rain we've had. That area also, pictures are gone, but there's several boats in there. That area, it's a tendency to flood during, obviously during hurricanes, and also during tides. That area is all tidal.
Mhm.
So during high tides, it has a tendency for the water to be higher or lower at different times of the year.
Okay. Now, on Exhibit 60, that was on the board, it looked like on the other side of the river from where the body and the suitcase were found, it looks like there's a smaller river or tributary of the Escambia River.
Are you talking about the north side of the bridge there?
Yes.
Yes.
Is that looks like maybe it's a marina or a boat launch or something there? It doesn't have it on that one. May I approach the witness, Cheryl?
You may, sure.
So yeah, it's not very clear here, but it was very clear on the latch thing. Is there a marina?
Yeah. Yes,
or,
in Carolina.
Settlement or something like that there?
It is a marina, sir. I was unclear of where you were talking about that.
I'm sorry. That's why I approached. Is that a permanent marina where people keep their boats all the time?
Yes, sir. It's just a small tributary that runs back up. I don't believe it goes to the north just a little bit. There's a little marina on that side of the bridge as well. There's actually a marina on both sides, the north and south side of the bridge.
So just on the other side of the bridge from where the suitcase was found, there's settlement, there's, two marinas, there's stuff going on, presumably lights and civilization, for lack of a better word.
I'm sure the marina's lit up at night. Yes, sir.
Okay. And you had mentioned the suitcase was very heavy and seemed waterlogged. This date back in March of 2020, I think March 17th of 2020, you testified to. Had there been flooding under the bridge in the weeks preceding the discovery of the suitcase?
I'm not for sure, sir.
Not for sure. Okay. Just a second, Your Honor.
All right.
That's all I have. Thank you.
Redirect.
Oh, thanks, Sharon.
Yeah, really no
Do any of the
questions there.
jurors have any questions for Mr. Ponder? All right. Thank you, sir. You may step down.
Thank you, Your Honor.
So, Mr.
All right, so I'm gonna pause there. That was rough. I know it was rough. I know, like, with Tellini and Cook, I didn't like Cook. Now, the reason I didn't like Cook is because he was the one, as you'll see, that seemed like they were giggling with Letecia. He was always the one whispering in her ear. Now, we don't know what he was saying, to be fair. But it came off really That's what it is, Bree. Like, she picks up her head when it's her attorney's up. It's hard. I don't remember who comes up next, but we'll just continue in chronological order. I don't know if anybody's going live. I don't know if Bendy is alive. I know she wasn't feeling good. Oh, hold on one second. Before I go, I don't know how many of you guys know that Allie's son has to have surgery. And so there is a card, like an electronic card, for anybody who wants to sign and send like their well wishes. So let me drop that real quick, but don't tell her. She's not in here, so I think I could get away without her hearing us. So Jules is live. Thank you, Harlot. Jules is live. That's right. I stopped into her live earlier about Kohlberger stuff, if that's what because that's what I know she was supposed to be doing.
Thank you,
So,
Harlot.
ew, I hate hearing my own voice. Link to e-card for anybody who wants to sign and say a little well wish. And if you want to contribute for a gift card, you have the option. Have you seen the crime scene photos from Yes, so many people think and I'm doing Gypsy's interrogation this weekend with Shakto, but so many people think that is newly leaked. That is not newly leaked. Those crime scene photos have been around since Nick's trial. They have been public, they have been open. Anyone with a FOIA has access to it. But I've seen those crime scene photos a long time, but it's kind of mind-blowing to me that, hey, MK, we thought we scared you away. Anybody with anyone who has seen those crime scene photos will truly understand the how serious of a crime this was. And this wasn't about, let me just get out of this situation. It was, Dee Dee was nearly severed. Her head was nearly severed, okay? It is rough, so I caution anybody who does look at her crime scene photos, because there is a Google Drive going around. But yeah, they've been around. Oh, really fragrant. See, and it changed. This is why I wish people would get the full context. Not saying that you have to look at crime scene photos. I understand that that's not for everyone. But at least educate yourself on the extent of the injuries, right? They were always available, Jules, but a lot of people are thinking that they were just leaked. They weren't leaked. This has been around since Nick Godejohn's trial, okay? And if Gypsy had a trial, which somebody needs to tell Ryan, Gypsy never had a trial, because clearly he doesn't understand she's never had a trial. They've been around, but people are just seeing them for the first time and they think that it's been leaked. It's not been leaked. It's been out. You could get access with the FOIA. But people are realizing, oh, wait, this wasn't just like I needed to get out and, no, Dee Dee's head was nearly severed. She left her mom in that condition. And I'm not defending Dee Dee, but that is horrific. It is horrible. And I think, there's a lot of talk with Gypsy, getting warnings as far as violating parole. And yeah, I think she's going to continue to violate parole, but I do not think they're going to have the balls to send her back, because it's going to bring too much publicity. And it takes a lot of resources to house a highly, like, I don't want to say a famous, but highly publicized prisoner. I don't know. Like, it takes a lot of resources. They need additional resources at the jails and prisons. Yeah, Bean Feathers. I won't ever watch anything Gypsy directly. Like, I'll watch other people who like re-upload and stuff, but I just, but hold on. Lily by Starlight says, most of your content has almost exclusively kept me sane while going through a rough time in my life, attempting to leave a narcissistic and abusive relationship. I didn't want to say thanks. I'm sorry that you're going through a rough time, Lily, but I'm just thankful and appreciative that we can provide something here that helps even in the slightest. And if you ever need to reach out, please feel free. But you're strong enough to walk away. And once you do, that it's the hardest part, right? And you never look back, because nobody deserves to be in that type of narcissistic, abusive environment, dynamic relationship every fucking day. Nobody deserves that. Notorious, yeah, Lisa Lamont. But all right, guys, so I will see you tomorrow. We will pick up where we left off. I'm going to take a day to do gypsy interrogation, though. Probably not tomorrow, because by the time I get home from work, we'll just continue with the trial. But maybe Friday. I'll keep you guys posted. And then we're going to start Jodi Arias also. I'm going to throw her in there. So just that, you know, we're going to continue doing Tisha, but there'll be like a day here, a day there, the kind of what I've been doing with Gypsy to stop and do Jodi also. So I will drop the link for Jules's live, well, her channel, for anybody who's interested. You could Jade raid over there. Other than that, I will see you guys tomorrow. So have a wonderful night.